This is a movie about a guy who learns that to be good, you have to inject yourself with lots of experimental drugs, otherwise you're worthless.
Brian, okay, I'm sorry. I hate to interrupt you. It's a little bit dismissive. What he learns is that if you want to be good, you have to let German scientists inject you with a bunch of drugs.
Yeah. Come on.
Fair point. There are a lot of phases of Marvel movies, but what's the deal with them? What do they all mean? Can we figure it out? Watch the video to find out. We are going to talk about the Marvel Cinematic Universe phases, right? We're in phase 4 currently. And I mean, we all talk about the phases and the different projects that make up the phases, but in a lot of ways, it's still a bit of a mystery as to what defines a phase, what makes it start and end, and what it's all about. And so we're going to talk a little bit about each phase, the movies in each phase, and try to figure out if there's a larger meaning to each phase and see what we can figure out based on that stuff. So I'm going to talk a little bit about phase 1. Are you guys okay with that?
I would love that, man. I think that's a very good place to start.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
phase 1 makes sense to start.
that song starts.
It's the first one.
I mean, I wanted to start with 3, but no one listens to me. Please go on, Brian.
Who said that? Phase 1, the first movie is Iron Man, 2008. This is a movie in which Tony Stark learns that being bad isn't good. Weapons, they hurt, and he should not do them anymore unless he's the one who has them and he gets to decide who gets shot. That's the only way that weapons are. Are you reading
this directly from the script treatment? This is really good.
Yeah. That was what Jon Favreau wrote on a cocktail napkin when I asked him to make Iron Man. And it worked
right under Bartlett for president. Yeah.
I was
That's right. So this movie introduced Agent Coulson and the MCU version of Nick Fury, played by Samuel L. Jackson. Cool. Then, the same year, the forgotten MCU movie, The Incredible Hulk. This is a movie about Ed Norton getting real mad sometimes and turning into a big CGI monster and trying to take over a production and getting fired from a lifetime money printing machine in the future. And so he, in this movie, we get a Bruce Banner who's already been turned into the Hulk. We kind of just take his origin story as known well enough by the public from both the TV show and the previous movie by Ang Lee. So we're going to pretend like this Hulk's already the Hulk. You don't need to know exactly how he got hulked. He's the Hulk. And this movie introduces General Ross, who shows up a few more times in a couple other movies. This movie introduces the Abomination, who's so far showed up one other time as a cameo in Shang-Chi, and is supposedly going to show up in the She-Hulk show. And it also is the first time in the MCU that a character from one movie that is not a sequel shows up in this movie. This is the first time we get the interconnected MCU feeling, where Tony Stark shows up during the post-credit scene to talk to General Ross in a bar. And that's the first sign that something bigger is happening in the MCU. Then we've got Iron Man 2. 2010. This is a movie about Iron Man being drunk and then deciding not to be drunk anymore. He invents an element. He cures a disease that he gave himself, and he's fine. It also introduces the Black Widow, a.k.a. Natasha Romanoff, played by Scarlett Johansson. Then, 2011, Thor, about a guy who learns to be a good guy. Be responsible. Don't be a jerk. That's the lesson of Thor. Humility. He does kissing with Natalie Portman. It introduces Loki, one of the most long-running characters in the MCU, the villain of the first Avengers movie, and it also introduces everyone's favorite character, Hawkeye. Captain America, the First Avenger. We get more interconnectedness. We get the appearance of Howard Stark. We get early versions of S.H.I.E.L.D. This is a movie about a guy who learns that to be good, you have to inject yourself with lots of experimental drugs, otherwise you're worthless.
Brian, okay, I'm sorry. I hate to interrupt you. It's a little bit dismissive. What he learns is that if you want to be good, you have to let German scientists inject you with a bunch of drugs.
Yeah. Come on,
Fair point.
Brian. Get it together.
And this leads directly into the first Avengers movie, which came out in 2012. This brought back pretty much all the characters that we'd introduced previously to have a big ol' adventure where they fight Loki in New York. It's a wild movie, and it's the first of its kind, this giant team up of multiple franchises, an interconnected universe. It was an experiment that paid off. It's awesome. And that's phase one. Phase one, discussed. Who wants to talk about phase two? Nina, you want to talk about phase two?
Phase 2 has 2.5 good movies in it. That's how I'll start.
Okay,
the
great.
2 good movies. You know what? I'll just go through them chronologically, and then I will say which ones are the good movies.
I love
if
this
you haven't
plan.
already figured it out.
I haven't. I don't even know what you're going to say.
You've never heard of any of these movies before.
I don't even know who you are. Go on.
Wait, Brian, are you okay?
What?
How'd you get on this call?
Did you hit your head? All right. First movie in Phase 2 is Iron Man 3 in 2013. I like it because it's weird. No one else likes it.
I like Iron Man 3.
Love that movie.
Okay. The three of us are weird. I think we probably established that plenty. That's a movie where Ben Kingsley is a giant red herring. That's his character. And a lot of stuff gets blown up. And it's a Christmas movie also. I don't know. A lot of stuff gets blown up. It's going to be... It is Shane Black. That's right. He only does Christmas movies.
Shane Black knows how to make his Christmas movies.
He sure does.
Yeah.
The next movie is Thor: The Dark World, which also came out in 2013. I tried to watch this movie once late at night after imbibing adult beverages, and I turned it off after 45 minutes because I just kept yelling, "What is going on?" at my television. I don't like this movie. I've never returned to it, and nobody else likes it, so I'm just going to keep
kind of
moving.
like it.
I like the way you explain things.
I kind of like it.
Thank you. That is a line from that movie. The next movie is Captain America: The Winter Soldier. This is one of the good movies. Congratulations. We've arrived at good. This movie is awesome. It's a weird political thriller wrapped in a movie about a guy who can sprout metal wings and zoom around the sky.
I love it.
It's so good. I have no complaints, no notes. Does this introduce... No, but it introduces Bucky as the Winter Soldier, but it does not introduce Bucky as a character. He shows up in the first Captain America.
That's correct.
Yeah, it does introduce the Falcon. So that's the worst part of it, is it brings in one of the most underwhelming characters in the MCU. Moving on. I'm gonna get eaten alive on the internet. Guardians of the Galaxy, also a good movie because James Gunn directed it and the cast is really good and it's a lot of fun and it's one of my personal favorites. I've seen it a whole bunch of times. Chris Pratt is very good as Star-Lord. It led to a great tie-in on Parks and Rec where he got really buff for no reason and the show had to explain it, which greatly amused me. Yeah, and no one expected this to hit as well as it did. The soundtrack slaps. I listen to it regularly. Avengers Age of Ultron is a movie where the director didn't want to be there and nor did anybody else. Everybody looked tired and cranky. There's a lot of problematic stuff about how if you can't naturally have children, you are as bad of a monster as a guy who can turn huge and green and destroy entire cities because those two things are equivalent.
Stretch. Okay.
She literally says to Bruce Banner, "I'm a monster too," and I'm just like, ugh.
Nope.
No?
He says he can't have kids, and she says neither can I. I don't think that the
she said she actually
ever.
Yeah, no,
I don't have a uterus, and therefore
she does say
you wouldn't like me when
she
I'm
equates
angry.
herself to a monster because she can't have kids. It's not. I don't like it.
Okay.
I don't like this movie.
Well, in her defense.
Also, James Spader was bad in The Office,
monstrous.
so I don't like this movie.
Don't.
And I don't like Boston Legal, so I don't like this movie. Moving on.
Oh my god.
Wow.
I don't know. When you asked me to do this, I think
Hot
you
takes.
knew what you were going to get, and this is it. It was poorly conceived research and me just yelling about
beautiful.
stuff I don't like.
It's a beautiful disaster. I love it.
Ant-Man is half a good
My dad's
movie.
going to be so mad at you about the Boston Legal thing.
I'm sorry.
Please continue.
Which half is the good movie?
Anytime, like, I don't know. It's whenever Corey Stoll's not on screen, it's like fine.
Okay.
Okay.
Dang.
Yeah.
All right.
He's just, his villain's not, I like Corey Stoll a lot. I was psyched to see him show up, and then I was like, oh, they're not really doing anything with you.
He's just
he's a good actor.
bad guy.
Yeah, he's just bad, and you don't get why he's bad, and he's just like, I'm just going to murder a bunch of animals and then people, and he doesn't really have a good motivation, and that's the end of phase 2.
He wants money. All right.
Yeah.
Good job.
I think
Nina.
I did
Thank
a
you.
great job. You're welcome.
I think you did a great job. I think we all have a lot to think about.
Yeah. Much to consider.
Tom, tell us
Yeah, what's
about
up,
phase 3.
And do a better job than I did.
nobody's going to do a better job than you did. I mean, this is phase 3 is where the larger plan, where you might even call the universe's plan for the MCU really comes together, where the big ideas that we've been building to this whole time take root. And the biggest of these ideas is that this franchise is going to finally really find its feet once we hand the whole thing over to just the people that made Community. That's
and happy endings.
And happy endings.
There you go.
So we start out with Civil War. It's the first movie in phase 3, directed by the Russo brothers, who, directed and co-produced and were showrunners on Community for years. The plot doesn't make a lick of sense. It doesn't matter because it's a banger. It's just a good time.
Yeah,
it's really fun.
It keeps moving fast
really
enough that you don't mind the fact that like Iron Man's whole thing is no, we need more transparency and more personal responsibility, and therefore I'm going to disguise a child and then force him to punch people after sneaking him across international borders. Following that, there's Doctor Strange, I think is the next one, in which they pulled in Dan Harmon to do script doctoring on it.
I didn't know that.
And then that's a fact. I think he said that he got paid more for that than he did any other project that he'd ever done, and it was mostly just sitting in a room while people read the script to him and then saying, yeah, no, he's kind of like Rick. Then Spider-Man Homecoming, which is co-written by Chris McKenna, who wrote some of the best episodes of Community. Really, just this whole thing was we found one show that did a great job at telling a story, and then we decided to trust those people with billions of dollars. We go to Thor Ragnarok. We get Guardians of the Galaxy 2. Both of these kind of fresh concepts. We're going to hand stories over to fantastic directors and mostly trust them to do whatever they want to do with
Community
them.
showrunners not involved in those.
Not this time around.
Not this time.
We'll get there because, let's see, then we have Black Panther, who's, of course, introduced in Civil War. He gets his own movie against the odds of most of the betting men. It turns out to rule. It's a great story. He's an astonishingly hit and miss character in the comics, but they managed to take all the stuff that works and
only Oscar winner in the MCU to date.
Oh.
Yeah.
Only one. Just saying.
Which is wild because the next one is Infinity War, which is astonishing, and dark and weird, and probably like objectively too long. But again, the Russo brothers, man, they just keep it clipping, and you don't mind the whole time. Great,
and it ends with everybody dying,
and it ends with a generation of 10-year-olds who wanted to go watch Spider-Man punch aliens.
It's such a great ending.
In their AMC, it's a killer.
I loved
ending.
it. I loved it.
So depressing. Then we have Captain Marvel because we needed a movie about Captain Marvel. Then we have
that is all there is to say about that. Yes.
Ant-Man 2, which is fun. That's exactly what it's supposed to be, right? And then Endgame, where we don't really have that much Captain Marvel because nobody was sure what to do with her.
Fair.
And then Spider-Man's sad because Iron Man died. The end.
The end. So that's all 3 phases. So one of the things that we wanted to talk about a little bit as we wrap up was that it's been said that phase 2 was the Empire Strikes Back of the Marvel phases. You told me this at another time, Tom. And then you pointed out that in every one of those movies in phase 2, somebody loses a hand or an arm, which is wild.
Yeah.
And we looked it up and it's true. So if that's the case, does that make phase 1 A New Hope and phase 3 Return of the Jedi? Does that track with everything we said?
No, that's an interesting question because I was looking into this and it turns out that while they are not those things, people desperately want them to be. If you go to the MCU like fan wiki and walk down to the trivia, there are some desperate stretches to try and connect this concept.
Oh, I love that.
Across the whole franchise.
I love a long reach.
It's
That's why you're the
pulled it
world's
up.
biggest Mr. Fantastic fan.
Obviously.
Thank you.
Several, though not all, Phase 3 films feature at least one character having an arm removed as a throwback to Phase 2's Empire Strikes Back.
Woof.
It's really like Doctor Strange. Dr. Stephen Strange has his left arm engulfed by hands in his illusion.
Great.
It's not good.
No.
Just like Return of the Jedi.
Exactly like an
Yeah.
That happens so much in Return of the Jedi.
It's like that time that I went to go see Return of the Jedi at a second run theater after eating some cactus. Yes.
So if we were to push this allegory further, Phase 4, are we saying that this is like the prequels, the Star Wars prequels, where we're filling in
that's mean.
backstory and it's just kind of like nobody knows what we're doing here or what's happening? Or is it more like Episode 7, where we're rehashing the first Star Wars movie? Or are we rehashing Phase 1 and setting up a new story only to end in disappointment?
Which one's the Star Wars movie where kids die? I guess it's Revenge of the Sith, right?
It's Revenge of the
Yeah.
Sith.
That's got to be it, because that's the one connecting thread that I can think of in Phase 4 so far, right?
Because
Wanda
of,
and Vision had all of their kids.
Yeah.
They died.
yeah.
And Falcon and the Winter Soldier's all like Bucky's whole story is that he killed some guy's kid.
Yep.
Moon Knight's brother
died. Yeah.
drowned. Great scene, really good scene. Love to see it. Would love to see more of it. Then Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, another kid drowns. They know what audiences love. That's what makes Marvel the success machine that it is.
So Phase 4 is the kid killing phase, in your opinion.
It's the kid killing phase.
In your
Yeah.
observations.
This is the Order 66.
Beautiful.
Master Skywalker, what are we going to do?
Delightful. I
Phase.
can't wait for Phase 5.
What's that one going to be?
That's going to be
Solo a Star Wars story.
there
An
it is.
Ewok adventure.
And yeah, it's going to be Caravan of Courage. They're just going to have the Ewoks. I don't know.
Bunch of Phil Tippett.
Did we do
stop-motion
anything good
monsters
here
attacking
today?
people.
Probably not, but that's
Oh.
fine. Thanks for watching Everything Marvel. Check out one of our newest videos right here. Plus, even more videos about your favorite Marvel stuff is coming soon. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell so you don't miss a single one.